Go ahead, Lily, and then Jenna.
For the word problem.
Yep. Which there'll be one where you have to do graphing and find a couple values, and then another one where you have to just find values.
I have trouble figuring out whether they give you the value or the
I would never give you the B value.
So it's always
Period.
Okay.
And then you can tell it's period because it makes one full cycle. The only thing you may have to worry about I don't know if it's maximum. Nope, they gave you the equation for that one. Gave you the equation, gave you the equation. I thought it was going to be on here. Maybe it was on your, I think it was in, not on the test review. Hold on, because I do want to go over that now that you brought that up, especially if you're not given the equation. So let me get the packet up. Not in geometry. I don't know if it was day 1 or day 2.
And then there was one that we were supposed to do, I don't know if we were supposed to do in class yesterday, but it was like 60 cycles every second, so then it was 1 over 60.
Yep. Okay, this one right here, number 4 on page 38. Where you guys had to come up with the equation. And you could have found the A and the C value using the max and the min, and there was only one up here that had the A and the C value you were looking for, so you didn't have to really worry about what was in parentheses. But everyone ready on this one? It says at t equals 0, you have the maximum, and then t equals 5 is the minimum. So if I asked for the period here, what would you tell me? How long would it take to make one full cycle? Because the answer is not 5. Because if it happens at t equals 0, you get the max, right? And then at t equals 5, you get the minimum. That's only halfway. So 10 total. All right. So I may pull that tomorrow where I only give you half of it. Like, I'm just going to pull this out of nowhere. A Ferris wheel does 1/2 of a revolution in 12 minutes. The period's not 12. The period would be double that, 24. Okay. Or if I do, something like we always do those high tide, low tide questions. If I say from high tide to low tide is 8 minutes, that's not the period, right? The period is from high tide to high tide or low tide to low tide. So how many more minutes is it going to take to get back up to the high tide? Another 8. So what's your full period here? Would be 16. So watch out for that tomorrow on the test. Okay? Watch out, especially if I don't give you an equation and you just got to read through it. All right, high tide to high tide is the period, or low tide to low tide is the period. All right, you got to double it if I only give you half of it. Good. Jenny, you had a question?
Yeah, can you go over what phase shift is and vertical shift?
Okay, let's go over number 1 on your test review if you haven't done so already. That was one of them I was going to go over here. Okay, so let me go right down the list here, period. Given that graph, how are you going to find period? Let's open it up. Here you go, 14. How do you find period? 2 pi over b, got it. In this case, somebody pick off the b value for me. 7, b value. 3, yep. So I can't do much with that. That's the period. What's up next? Amplitude. I just hope you don't put the sign with it. So 6, amplitude. 1/2. Not negative 1/2, just 1/2. Always positive. And now here, up frequency. I think we already answered that, right? That's with B value 3. And now here comes your question here, Jenna, phase shift. Tomorrow I will not accept minus pi, remember. I'm not accepting minus pi because I don't know. That doesn't tell me up, down, left, or right that you know that. All right, so minus pi tells me what direction here. Inside the parenthesis, 4 minus pi. Right pi. Yep, so I need to see right pi, or I don't know if we discussed this in here. Somebody asked me in one of my classes, can I use arrows instead? Right pi, sure, whatever, fine. I'm not going to argue with that. But minus pi won't count tomorrow. And then your vertical shift, I'm not going to, +1's not going to fly tomorrow, okay? +1. I don't know if that's up, down, left, or right. +1, what do you want to write in words for me? 5? Up 1, done. I'll accept that. Go ahead.
So like phase shift is going left and right.
Inside the parenthesis,
Okay.
left and right, and it's always the opposite of the sign.
Okay.
Like this is minus, so it would go right.
Okay.
And then outside the parenthesis is up and down, vertical shift.
Okay.
And that follows the rule, plus up, minus down. Other concerns you have before I start? Yep.
Can you do number 7?
On this review?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, graph it from 0 to 2 pi. All right, so the first thing I always find, period, 2 pi. What's my frequency here? Anybody? On number 7? 2, right? So that means, what's that mean, that pi? Start, end. It's going to end at pi, but I got to do it to 2 pi. So how many of these curves am I actually going to see if we start thinking about this, thinking ahead? You're still going to see 2 curves, all right? One's going to end at pi. The other one's going to end at 2 pi. What am I going to go by? Because I'm not going by pi's. I'm going to go by pi over 4. Yep. So here's pi over 2. Pi over 4 would be somewhere halfway in between. So 1 pi over 4. What's next? 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. Keep talking to me. 3 pi over 4. What's next? 4 pi over 4, which is pi. Keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 pi over 4. What's next? 6 pi over 4, which is just this one right here. And then last one I got to mark. 7 pi over 4. Now, I will not have the axes filled out for you tomorrow. You'll be doing that on your own. All right. I know this probably confused you guys because it was already filled in and you needed more than that. All right. Let's talk sine curve. Where does it start? 0, but anybody want to tell me anything about this equation? Shifted down 1, which includes the zeros. Okay. Where does sine usually go now? To the max. So what would be the max here? It was 2, but now I shifted it down 1. So what's my new max? Stop me if max, doesn't it go back to the 0 now? And then goes to the minimum. What's the minimum? Was -2, shifted it down 1. -3. And then back to its 0. And then I got to keep graphing because it does say to 2 pi. So one more time. Okay, Jenna, go ahead.
This sounds probably really stupid, but like, how do you do the spacing? Because like for that, like you did the first mark out.
What do you mean on your own?
Well,
I'm not going to do this for you tomorrow. I'll have a blank graph
Okay.
for you tomorrow. And you do your own y, x-axis. However you space it out is up to you.
Okay, because like I was just confused because you like started the first dash at the like first line, and then you.
It should be halfway. All these here should technically be halfway in between each one here. Okay, but tomorrow you'll fill in your own axes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other general questions here? Yes. What do you mean how I would? As long, and my rule is you got to be consistent. Like if you're going to go by 3 boxes for the first one, the rest better go by 3 boxes. And the same thing on the y-axis. If you want to go by 2 marks and then put your tick mark, then go by 2 every time. I don't care. Okay, because all I'm looking for, Ashley, is like I said, you're consistent and this point is in the right spot. That's what I'm looking for. Art. What do you mean labeled?
Like you wrote in blue.
I need the x-axis labeled, yeah. And if you're not going by ones on the y, I need that labeled. Because if I don't see a label, I assume you go by ones. Good? Okay. So label it if you're not going by ones. But x-axis, all your tick marks should be labeled. All right. Other general questions? Nice job here so far before we get some of our own questions going. Yep. Ben, what's up? I certainly can. I hope anyway. Okay. First thing I just want to point out, because I don't know if we're comfortable with this or not. Everyone see how I started this out with 20 plus? I put that at the beginning instead of the end. What is that just acting as? Even though it's at the beginning, it's still okay. That's the shift, your midline. Okay, so that is, even though I didn't, I could have done this plus 20. Same thing. All right, I just put it at the beginning. So I believe this one's asking me for what is the minimum amount of snowfall first, and then I'll answer the second question. All right, no big deal. Minimum, here we go. What was the old minimum? 10, right? Negative 10. And then what was the shift? Plus 20, right? So my minimum is 10, what are we in inches here? 10 inches, yep. So we good on that part. Ben, no big deal. Find the minimum. Hopefully everyone else is comfortable with that. All right, now here's probably the difficult part. In what years between 1970 and 2000 did I hit this minimum? So here's, in a nutshell, what I'm asking is, if I had your graph it, how many times is it going to hit the minimum, and then what years? So here we go. What do I need to graph? You guys tell me. I'm just going to do a quick sketch of this. What do I need to graph? Need the min and the max. I got the min already. All right, now I need the max. All right, so max will be 20 plus 10. So it's going to go up to 30. Got it. What else? So I know 10 and 30 have to go on here. So 10, 20, 30. Got it. How about the x-axis? Need a little help filling that out. Even before I get to the key value, I need to know the period. Go ahead, find the period of this curve. 2 pi over what? 2 pi divided by pi over 5. Skip and flip. What is the period here? Should be 10. Okay, talk to me. 10 is where it'll end. 10. How do you figure out what do I go by? Divide by 4. 10 divided by 4. 2.5. Okay, so ready. 2.5 is the first one. What's the next one if I'm going by 2.5s? 5s, 7.5, and then 10. All right. Let's just get a sketch of the curve and then we'll talk. Cosine curve. Talk to me. Cosine. Yep. Any negative sign there? Okay, so max was 30. I'm still listening. Max up 20. Yep. Minimum. Okay, where on your x-axis? Because this question said where it hit the minimum. Where on the x-axis did it hit the minimum? At 5, right? All right, and what does that 5 mean? Read through the problem. Ready? What did the 5 mean? Represents the number of years since 1970. So what if I have 5 here, and that's the number of years since 1970, what year did it first hit its minimum? So 1975 would be my first answer. But it wants me to go to what? 2000. Ooh. Okay. So does it, I guess we could keep on going if we needed to, right? I could go to 12 and a half, blanking, 15, and so on and moving out. But isn't it just going to repeat itself? Right? So when is the next? So I got 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10. I'll have 12 and a half, right? If I kept going by 2.5s. And then I would have 15. And what would happen at 15? I'd be back down to the minimum. So 1975, 15 plus 1970. What year am I at now? 19. 15 years since 1970. 85. The trend's going to keep continuing. So what's the final year? 1995. I would reach the minimum again. And again, if you're uncomfortable with that, what could I just keep on doing here? Keep graphing all the way out to 2000. All right, keep graphing every cycle. And then you'd find it was 5, 15, 25. All right. Ben, you good there? Okay. Everyone else, we okay? Yep.
Wait, can you go over how you found the key values again for like the
Okay, key value. I need to know the period first,
Oh, I didn't see that. Yeah.
right? I need to know the period, which was 10.
Yeah.
So when I break it up in equal parts of 4, 10 is my last value.
Okay.
And what do I go by? I take 10 divided by 4, which is 2.5. So there's my first value, and I add 2.5 every time.
Okay.
That's all I'm doing here is adding 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. Other general questions here? All right, I definitely need to go over where I give you the equation and you have to figure out values. So let's go all the way to number 22 for me. Because I don't feel too comfortable yet. And I know there's a few on the test tomorrow. Okay, ready? Cosine graph. Identify what the amplitude is. Now, does it go up and down in the same amount? No, so you just can't give me 5 here. All right, but you do have a way to find it. How do I find the A value here? 12, A value. How do we've been finding it all unit? Yep, go ahead, Art. What's the max it reaches on the y-axis? 5 minus how low on the y-axis? So 5 minus -1 over 2. The A value is 3. Yep. Now just be careful. I've been tricking you a couple times this unit. Does that have to be a -3? Is this the cosine curve flipped or is this actual cosine? Is this cosine or is it cosine flipped? Where's it starting at? The max, right? So it's fine. All right, if I started it at -1 and went this way instead, then I would need to put a negative in front. Brett? I'm not saying, well, okay, in this part you got me. That's 3, but I'm saying when you write the equation, you better put a negative with it if it's flipped. Okay, so for this one, yes, it is 3. period. Here's where I get nervous. If we can, I know a lot of you probably 99% of you can find period given an equation, 2 pi over b. But can you find it using a graph? What's period mean to you guys other than 2 pi over b? How long it takes to make one cycle. Okay, on the x-axis, how long is it taking to make one cosine curve, basically? Looks like from 0 to 4. Does everyone see what I mean? And then once you hit 4, it just starts repeating again. So the period would be 4. We okay there? Because that will get you to frequency next. How long it takes to make a full cycle. All right, frequency, how can I find that now that I know the period? Period equals? Okay, we said the period was 4. I just got to make sure. Are we okay solving for B now? Because this is it tomorrow. I hope so, but it doesn't have to be reduced. I'll just be a static tomorrow if you can find B, whether it's reduced or not. Pi over. You can leave it 2 pi over 4 or pi over 2. Okay, how about the equation of this bad boy? Gonna try it, Ashley? Y equals, gotta have Y equals. Oh, good, good. It didn't, I was hoping you guys didn't fall, it didn't ask for it, but there's a shift here. And how do I know it's a shift? They don't start and end at the same value. All right, even though it's not asked anywhere on here, we still need to find the C value because there is a shift because it started and ended in a different spot. So we're gonna do 5 plus -1 over 2. Nice job, Ashley. Yes, the C value is 2. So I need to add a plus 2 at the end. Should we try another one with just given the graph? Because one doesn't make you great. Should we try another one? $10? We all have the same 10 here. All right, it does say period and amplitude first, so I'll do amplitude because I think that's the easiest. Amplitude, you can do max minus min if you want, but they go up and down to -3, so my amplitude is going to be 3. Okay, here's where I know you know your stuff. Is this next question, the period. Don't yell out anything if you think you have it. The period. This is how I know you're good to go. How long does it take to make one full curve? Because I didn't label past 2 pi. And can we all be in agreement, please? Unlike your quiz, the answer to what's the period is not always 2 pi. Maybe on day 1 of this unit, sure, but not all the time. It is not 2 pi. Do you think you have it, Ashley? How long is it going to take for this thing to repeat again? Why 4 pi? Because halfway was what? 2 pi, so it's going to take another 2 pi for a total of 4 pi. Everyone good there? It took, look, halfway, 2 pi, which tells me it's going to be another 2 pi to finish this thing off. So out to 4 pi. Nice job. You guys think you can come up with the equation now? because I did not ask for one of the values that needs to be put into the equation. How do I start it off? 3. -3? No, this is cosine, right? I didn't flip it. So 3 cosine. Uh-oh. Hopefully you're not plugging a 4 pi in there, or we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Sorry to break the bad news. We're in trouble. 4 pi does not belong in there. The b value does. You can use the 4 pi to get there, but 4 pi does not belong in the parenthesis. What do you got for the b value? Had to just... Want to see where we got 1/2? Are we all right? And is there any shift I got to test for? Nope. Goes up and down in the same amount. So there's my equation. Last call. Anything you want to ask? Because this is a review here, so I don't want to stand up here. If you need individual help, of course I'll help you out. But anything else? Those were ones I was playing. Like I wanted to go over this one, but we already just went over 2 graphing ones, so I think we're good there. Yeah, let me go over 16 and 17. 16 and 17. This was on your quiz, and not too many people got it correct. And I threw another one up tomorrow as a multiple choice. So here's what I'm asking for 16. As you go from pi to 3 pi over 2, what's the sine curve do? From pi to 3 pi over 2, what's the sine curve do? All right, now you can visualize it in your head. I'm not that type. I actually have to draw out the sine curve. Where's the sine curve start? Where does the sine curve start? At 0, then it goes to max. If it's just the regular sine curve, it's 1. Down to 0, -1 for the min, and back up to 0. So now, do you know on this curve where pi and 3 pi over 2 are? Well, where do I start? 0. Remember this is going way back to day 1. The next key value, pi over 2. Next one, pi. Next one, 3 pi over 2, and then always ends at, for the basic curve, yes. So now look at the section from pi to 3 pi over 2. Can you tell me what's happening in that section there? Which is that section right there, pi to 3 pi over 2. What's happening? Decreasing from 0 to -1. And then 17, I asked the same thing, but with the cosine curve. Okay? So I did throw, that one was on your quiz. One of them was on your quiz. I threw another one on tomorrow. All right, I'm going to let you go. Do your thing. All the answers are up on Aspen. Try to get to as many as you can, especially graphing ones. Question? Okay, yeah, I'll come right back. Hold on.